Stevie, you in the mix with my cousin Igor Beats. The basement's going scandalous, scandalous.
Yeah, man, it's your boy Langy, man. And I'm in the mix with DJ Igor Beats. What it do?
It's your boy Brunette. And you in the mix with DJ Igor Beats. What it do?
It's your boy Mo Guns, CEO of Beats Entertainment. You in the mix with DJ Igor Beats. What it do?
Yo, what's up? It's your boy Whiteout, one part of the Bay Boys of Comedy. And you in the mix with my little big cousin, DJ Igor Beats. What it do?
It's your boy Rascal of Beats Entertainment. And you're in the mix with DJ Igor Beats. What it do?
It's your boy Gutter, you know, it's the vibe. And you in the mix with Igor Beats. What it do?
DJ Igor Beats in the mix.
Check, 1, 2, 1, 2, what it do? We live on Bay Life Radio. Stay tuned. Top of the hour. We got Beneath the Surface with Perspektive.
They lie.
In the meantime, we want to say thank you to our sponsors. By the Pound Rap Media, Square Vision, One World Magazine, Smith Smooth Cuts, Precious Love Catering, Uncle Paul's Barbecue, Lollipop Cannabis Candy, Coast to Coast DJs, the DJ Coalition, No DJ, No Party, and all the wonderful parents all around the world, huh? That's right, hug them kids right around the neck area.
What's going on, y'all? It's Chewy Gomez out here with the Lava May folks. These folks are doing a great job and a great service to the community for those folks out there that are homeless, and not even the homeless. I mean, there's a lot of folks that are using this that aren't homeless, right?
It's true, yeah. There's a lot of low-income folks or folks that are housed in places where maybe the showers don't work, or they're unsavory, or maybe they're not private, or not always hot. So we do serve primarily houseless folks on the street.
Now, folks taking a shower, they don't want to get back in their dirty clothes. Is there an option for them to get some clothes at all here? I don't know.
We do have clothing donations. You know, it's all donation-based, so the stock fluctuates. But we do have a lot of volunteers or even community members that bring clothes out. So we typically do stock underwear and socks always. We got goods.
Oh, nice. So if you guys got some socks, you guys care to donate, you got some extra shirts. You know, we all outgrow our shirts. I'm into a 3X now, so I got to donate my 2Xs. But yo, get down there and connect with lavamay.org and make your donations.
If you're a music artist with an idea for a hit single, then you need the hottest package deal around. Gooflica Production and DJ Loot have teamed up to provide everything you need to get your single sounding and looking right. With extensive resumes in the hip-hop, pop, and R&B genres, Gooflica and DJ Loot provide industry-standard production from start to finish. From the beat to the mixing and mastering, all the way to album art, professional-level video, and promotional photos, we have the tools you need to make your hit a reality. Animation and models are also available to give your single that extra pop. Contact DJ Loot at booking@djloot.biz.
We live on your radio, what it do? Got the vibe for your deal, coming through. Bay Life Radio, bringing the heat right to you. Tune in to the bass, best connection to you. And good music is live, we keeping it true. Twitch.tv/Bay Life Radio and Digital Dash. Turn it up, feel the love, it's a Bay blast. From the president past, from the president past.
They lie.
For your ear, coming through. Bay Life Radio, bringing the heat right to you. Tune in to the base, best connection to you. And good music is live, we keeping it true. Twitch.tv/Bay Life Radio and Digital Dash. Turn it up, feel the love, it's a Bay blast from the present and past. From the present and past.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Anthony. Welcome back to Beneath the Surface, aka Perspective. This is where we go and talk about. We go drive through the to underneath the shell, right? The body that operates this vehicle to the heart and soul of the matter. And tonight's episode is a very special episode. I'm going to be interviewing Elizebeth Edwards. She is a famous, most wonderful songwriter and artist. She is a part of she's a part of a national movement for recovery, substance use disorder and stuff. She speaks on the national level. She has a lot to offer. She has a lot of emotional intelligence. I'm going to be able to bring her onto the show today. She's here with us tonight. Please let me introduce you guys to Elizebeth Edwards. Everybody give it up for Elizebeth Edwards. How you doing? I'm so glad that you could be on the show with us tonight. It is. So I understand that you have, you really go around. So you have this emotional sobriety masterclass that you teach for absolutely free to help people get in touch with themselves and to regulate emotions on a better level daily, I believe.
Yeah, I do a monthly class called Emotional Sobriety, how to basically stay sane in a chaotic world, which most of us, kind of recognize a lot of chaos going on. So how do we stay cool inside, right?
Right.
Take care of what's going on inside so that we can live from the inside out instead of trying to fix ourselves from the outside in. When we're trying to fix the inside with the outside, it gets tricky because it starts to look like addiction.
Right. I totally get that.
Can't get enough. Right, so that's where I focus.
That's wonderful, because I know for a lot of years my mind is a prison. It could be a prison if I allow it to be, and I did allow it to be for so many years. And I know through a lot of work on myself on the inside, right, it really sets up the day, right? It's how I feel about myself, is how I'm going to present myself in the world, in a sense. Or I could present myself in the world in a certain way, but the insides aren't really feeling right. And the goal is to be as peaceful as possible in the inside so I can really enjoy life without...
I think that what happens to so many people is that we... I'm a person in long-term recovery from addiction myself. I celebrated just 38 years of clean and sober. And the reason I bring that up is because I think that is something that everybody at least knows somebody. And oftentimes people think they're alone, and yet it's such a common problem that so many of us have. But I do like to talk about it. Like you said, I do a lot of things on the... I get asked to sing and to speak on this subject and I love doing it because I think it's important to say this is what recovery is not only possible, it's possible for you, it's possible for me, it's a decision really, and it's also resources, and we have to know it's possible, and when we see other people be able to accomplish that, it's easier for us to think maybe I can do that. And I think it's very easy to fall into the trap of shaming and blaming ourselves because so much of the time that's where addiction comes from. Right. I'd say the food of addiction is shame. That's what fuels it. So what can we do as recovered people, but also to understand people who are struggling with addiction, is to understand that they're hurting. They're not good people. They're not bad people trying to get good. They're hurt people trying to heal. And I think when we start to look at addiction and recovery differently, and I always say, it should come from the people who've been there and come out of it and come through it and have grown. I want it to be talked about from people that have been there, done that, right, versus people who are, over there with their little white coat on saying it's this, that, and the other. It's more important that we, I think, self-represent, and that's why I do what I do. one of the reasons. So.
Right, I love that, and that's kind of reason why I wanted to have this platform is to be able to talk about these kind of things. Because as somebody that's been in the darkness and has shifted over, and hearing the experiences, there's millions of us out there that you would look at and never have known that they had either been in an alleyway somewhere and their darkest time you could ever think of. You couldn't see that without actually hearing their story or actually saying, hi, how are you, let's have a chat, you know what I mean? And those are the living examples of miracles. And being one myself as well as you, is I get to sit here today, and I turned 36 on Saturday, and it's like to make it to 36, how I came up is an amazing thing because of, you know what I mean, having the will and desire to pull myself out with the help of others.
I think
and
it's
resources.
and the help of others is a really important part of it. But I think as a society, we tend to want to scapegoat the victims, which it's a perpetual victimizing illness, and it is an illness. It's considered a behavioral health disorder, and so people think of it as a moral failing. Yeah, there's a lot of problems that affect a lot of people in very negative ways, and we are all responsible for our personal behavior, absolutely. But we can't do that when we're that sick. So what I think is important to understand about recovery is that it kind of does take a village. It really does. And isolating people and shaming people and trying to scare them into recovery, none of that works. Right. What works is connection, understanding, support, firm support sometimes. Sometimes it is where you're ending up serving time for things you did while under the influence or under the lifestyle influence. That's all very real, but there's people who get clean and sober in prison, and they come out and live amazing lives. And I advocate for people who around social justice issues, and also where addiction recovery and the healthcare system meet. So there's a lot of reasons for people who can speak up to speak up. And I'm one of those people, and I've been happy to do that because it's so important that people know that it can and does happen. There are literally 26 million people in the United States that are in some form of recovery from addiction. And what's interesting about where we started with our conversation tonight is that addiction is coming from this behavior of trying to fix the inside with something from your outside.
Right.
And living a really powerful, empowered, creative life is the exact opposite. It's being whole and complete and creating from the inside out and self-expressing and having the empowerment come from the inside. And that's really the work around the emotional sobriety and the classes that I teach. That's really what that work is about. Because even when we get clean and sober, there's still a tremendous amount of working on ourselves that needs to happen to help us stay there. And that is really coming home to yourself, really coming home to your own soul, really, in whatever way that you define that for yourself.
Right. Now that's a very beautiful way to put it, and that's exactly the reason why I wanted to have you on this show.
Thank you.
Because you capture beneath the surface so well. Because that's what your heart, like, your purpose, that I'm seeing right now, and I can see it just in your passion and how you're talking about it. Because that's my ultimate goal. There's always work to be done. But I can honestly say over the years, I've grown within a lot to where when certain things come up, like that, because it's crazy how operate. I'll have certain thoughts in my head. They just come out of nowhere, right? And it's always been the way I've been wired, and that rewiring can't happen or hasn't happened. But I could be aware of it and be like, I'm not going to listen to the story that I've been telling myself, right? And then I let the heart take over.
And what you're describing is becoming consciously aware that you're not your thoughts. You're the thinker of the thought, And it might not even be your idea to think that. It was probably inherited either from your direct surroundings or through your early environment, right? So what happens is that all of that actually gets put into our unconscious mind and with no filter for the first, I don't know, up to 7 to 10 years of our lives. And so our self-esteem and all of that is kind of built from this early download of emotions, thoughts, and behaviors of the people who we're interfacing with. So if they don't like themselves, or if they're struggling with something, or if they've been shamed, or if there's trauma in the family and they take on the burden of that without getting the help they need early on to, nip that in the bud and get the support, then a lot of times what we do as human beings is we take that as though we're the difference between guilt and shame. Let me back up for a second. So guilt is, I did wrong. I'm a human being, and I was being human, and I made a mistake. So I can go make an apology for that. But if I'm shame-based, I think I am the mistake. I'm the problem. I'm never enough. I'm never good enough. It's not good enough. And that kind of mindset gets passed down generationally. So we end up with this, and there's usually one or two people in a family that kind of take on the big burden of the shame. I call it the shame bucket, right? So it's very easy to point the finger as a society. Oh, it's those people with the drugs and alcohol. I don't want that problem.
Right.
But really, it's the same thing as the way we would treat the person in the family. Oh, it's that the black sheep of the family. Well, there's a reason that's going on that's bigger than the individual. It's much bigger than the individual. It's generational and it's societal. And all of that creates your thinking, your feelings, and your thoughts, your feelings create your behavior.
That makes
a
lot of sense.
So to stop and go, I'm thinking this thought, and I know it's not good for me. It's telling me to do things to myself that aren't good for me.
Yeah.
And yet it won't go away. So what do I do with that? So starting to slow that down and really think about, what do I think? And is it true? And when I think that, what do I feel? But see, when we're adapting to these less than ideal, planet Earth is rough. There's some rough spots. Not everybody's got the cushy life. Most people don't. Even if it looks like it from the outside. We all have challenges.
Right.
All humans have challenges. So what are we doing when we stop those thoughts and we say, you know what, like I feel bad, and maybe I don't even know it, I think it's unconscious, like I'm feeling like this restless, irritable discontent. What would I have to believe to feel this way? What would I have to believe to feel this way? And when I do that, what I'm doing is I'm taking control of my inner world. I'm stopping and saying, oh, I'd have to believe this, that, and the other. Well, is that even true? Oh, no, that's just what my mom said about me. She doesn't really know.
Right. And I get that, like taking other people's how they feel about you and internalizing that, making it a reality. And I've done so when I was younger, I was like this. My nutrition wasn't that good. My mom, you know what I mean? We were raised in a dysfunctional family, so I was this overweight kid. Like I was like really overweight, right? And then so there was this time I got pushed into a pond when I was like 8. So these little things that come up, right, that get put into my mind at an early age, right? And then somehow that, becomes a part of me. And so I think that's a huge part of why those, why the insecurities and certain things just were embedded into me. Right. And there was nothing that I could do. It just came to be. And
because we feel like life is happening to us and telling us who we are versus us saying, you know what, I get to decide. Because you really do get to decide. So when we get in recovery, when we get healthy, and when we start working from the inside out, what's happening is we get to understand what we're saying to ourselves. And the first question I always ask is, who's talking? Who's talking? Because I don't like what they're saying.
Right.
And I'm not buying it anymore. So what do I need to make that different and make that thought? So I need to start acting my way into new thinking. What would the person I want to become think? And then from thinking, what would that make them feel? And then what would they do from that space. But most of us have adapted to the point where we're not even home. We push out the thinking so we can adapt to the thinking around us. We push the feelings down because they're too hard to deal with and we don't want to feel it. And that's where we numb out with all the things that you can numb out with, right? So we push that down, and pretty soon there's a God-sized hole. Or, if the word God offends you, there's a lot of different words. You can pick one.
Right.
Pick one.
Right.
But the energy inside of you tends to, it's like we abandon ourselves. And then I've got this emptiness inside of me. And now I'm reaching for the things outside of me to fill that emptiness up. But when I stop doing that and I start working on filling myself up, right? Filling myself up, letting my soul be the thing that's living here and start being true and authentic to myself and living from that sourced energy that, I look at it like this. I'm an artist, here's my CD right here, right? Old school, brought you a CD. I wrote those songs. I love those songs so much that I decided I'm gonna make sure I get the right producer. I'm gonna get in a studio and I'm gonna make that record because I want to create this thing I want to put into the world. That's how the Creator feels about every human being. He loved the idea of Anthony so much, he created Anthony. He dedicated resources to you being here. You were not your own idea, right?
Right, no.
Right? I wasn't either. So here we are, and we're thinking all this negative stuff.
Right.
Without questioning it. And my challenge, this is my little story I tell myself, is, wow, my Creator thought so much of his idea that he dedicated resources and time and said, let's go for it.
Right.
Yeah. So that's who we really are. And that's true of every human being ever created and that ever will be created.
Yeah, and I try to internalize that part, right? It's like, I didn't know. So the way I was living is so counterproductive to who I actually am, and the things that I know my heart and purpose is calling me to do. As I work in the community-based organization, and I get to, because of my experience that God has given me, right? Yeah. I get to see the reflections of his work everywhere I go, and I get to look at somebody else as a reflection of my own, right? Yes. That has their own struggles, their own journeys. Absolutely. and I get to know that because I've experienced that. So when I look at people, I don't just look at the surface level. I know that there's something in there that that they're struggling with, that happened or whatever it is. But all I aim to do is just aim with love and make that connection. Like, I'll just say this, like, today I was out there and I was able to, while helping people and guiding them the resources, I was able to have conversations with them and laugh with them and be on their level, because I'm on their level. The only difference between them and me is, I'm not anymore. You know what I mean? I'm not doing that. Doesn't mean that they're valued. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's people sometimes, and I love to be able to bring and show someone that, hey, you're valued, you matter. You know what I mean? You're not just this person on the sidewalk in this trailer or whatever it is. You're a human being. You're loved. And I see you. And
I think what you're addressing there is so powerful and important, because we really do live in a disposable society, but human beings are not disposable.
Right. Exactly.
And it's like, when did we as a society get so far away from our humanity? Not all of us, but there's enough of us where it hurts my heart. Anybody who's plugged in looks at that and goes, that's not right. So it's easy to look at the person that's, looks like the problem and think, oh, what's wrong with it? But what I think the better question we could all be asking ourselves is, what are we losing by allowing that human life to not actually, and there has to be some choice inside of them. They have to choose to want help. Right. And that's the hard part.
It is.
That is truly the hard part, because most people have gotten so far down the rabbit hole that they've given up on themselves a long time ago, and they don't see the light. But sometimes when we hold space for them and we hold the light, we know it's there. I might not be able to see it in your current condition, but I know it's there.
Right.
Okay, so when we hold that space for others, I think we really can connect through the heart connection, and the compassion, I think, is our connection with each other. So when we see people, I'm not saying I have all the answers about what to do about the bigger social problems, but I think bringing that voice to places that people make those decisions, that can be very important. And the more of us that do that, especially, I mean, as a 25-year-old person, you wouldn't recognize the woman that I've become. You wouldn't have any idea. You would be, no, not at all. But, you know, it is what the path that happened for me. And there was part miracle and part decision, and me deciding that I didn't want to be the person I was being. I didn't want to be this person anymore. So that meant I was either going to jump off the planet or I was going to change.
Right.
And that's what started my recovery path. So if I can do that, you can do that.
Right.
We're not cut from, we think we're so different. You know what music's taught me more than anything else? More than any other my biggest lesson in two things. One is we're way more alike than we are different.
True.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be hit songs.
True.
We'd have a bunch of songs where people would go, yeah, I can't even relate to that. We'd have a bunch of that.
Right.
But when we have songs where people feel the same feeling and have the same, they have their own little story going on, but it's universal truth is what is at the heart of a well-written song.
Right.
And as a writer, I'm always looking for that universal truth. The other thing it taught me was the importance of emotional literacy. So many of us are really shut down before we even have words. So life might be really hectic into the family that we're born into. There might have been a lot of trauma, certainly passed on generationally from all kinds of reasons. I mean, we've got wars going on. We've had wars going on forever, and that all kinds of injustices and the stuff, and people lived through that, and they had to adapt to those environments, and they didn't get out of it unscathed. And hurt people, right?
It's true.
So once you become aware enough to start cleaning up your own internal world, I think you get to a point where, yeah, I need to take this out further. But one of the things and help others do that. What I realized was so many people just didn't have the ability to put what was going on into words. So learning the language of writing lyrics and music really put me in this unique place of understanding the power of the right word in the right way, at the right place, and in the right time. And it was like, whoa, where else could that tool be helpful, right?
Right. Real quick, so I believe we have a caller on the line,
Oh, cool.
so people can actually call in.
Oh, wow, I didn't know. Okay, cool.
All right. Yeah. Hey,
bring
we
it
got
on.
a caller.
There we go.
Hey, welcome to Beneath the Surface. You're on the air. Oh, they hung up? Oh, they got nervous. It's okay. We'll be here if you want to call back in.
Yeah, call me back.
I forgot to tell you that part before we started. Hey, people can call in. So, and you know what I mean? They may have something that they want to say or that you touched on that they really felt are questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it on.
You know, sorry for that, though. But real quick, I do want to say that you really hit the nail on the head. You know, just talking about being able to voice what's going on in your heart, and drawing from your experience, and that's a beautiful thing. Because if I would, how I kind of say is like if I were to look at me through your eyes, I wouldn't know half of I wouldn't be able to put a pin on it. I couldn't nail it, right? So it's like, so how can I look at another person and think I know anything about that individual, just knowing off of the experience that I draw from? And I get to take that into the world in that mind frame and be able to talk to people and get to the heart of the matter. And that's what this whole thing is about. And that's why I'm kind of a little quiet right now, because I just love everything you're saying. And this is what, if you've seen, because I know you watched part of the first one, is for me what I want to get out of it and what I want the audience to get out of it and what we get out of it. Because the more of this that we have out there, the more people you know, are gonna, maybe we might be able to pick people up that'll be open to talk about it, or, you know, make some light workers that, you know, have people come up out of their darkened space and be more open and stuff, and normalize this, because you're right. I think people they're just better at masking the things that we're talking about.
Even to themselves.
You know?
I mean, because when we don't, it's very easy to just give up on yourself in a world full of distraction, in a world full of quick fixes on the outside that don't last and that just cause more pain and delayed pain. So I think what I always like to think about is, can you imagine a world, or even a small city, or maybe even a room full of people, that are completely comfortable in their authentic self, standing in their power with not the ego that you hear about. Ego, is negative. Ego just tells me it's just reinforcing my identity, and if you didn't have that, you would have a mental illness, probably along the lines of like schizophrenia or something like that. I'm not a doctor, so I just, I'm not sure about what the thing would, but ego is an important thing, but a healthy ego is called confidence. An unhealthy ego usually is not very attractive, and I try to stay, like, woo. It's usually defensive and offensive. So what we want to do is, if we have a world where people are comfortable in their skin, they're self-aware, their heart's open, no defense mechanisms with other people. Imagine a world, how different the decisions we would make as a society. The difference was we would have such different problems. They would be absolute Cadillac problems, right? We'd like, oh, what are we going to do today? Like, but the point being is that we're so living where we think what I want is over there. What I want is what she's got, or what I want to look like that, and I won't be enough until I have that. But the problem is I'll be happy when, but that when keeps moving out further and further. Right. And what I'm suggesting is go inside, stay inside until you find something to love in here.
That's true.
And that's not an easy thing to do.
It's not. I work on, and this is a raw show, and I got to be honest, I work on that, being fully comfortable in my own skin, as upon awakening to the time that I sleep, because that's the world I want to live in here. And that's really the goal.
That's the world you take everywhere you go.
Yeah, it is. I'm with myself. There I am.
Yeah, so there,
24/7. So I better, learn how to live with myself 24/7, and that's what I've been putting my efforts towards, because once that happens, like you said, the problems are different. The things I'm thinking about, I'm holding space for other kind of ways of thinking other than the ones that I do think, like, what's this person think? Is this person? All those things that I've been wired for, and I love how you're talking about that, because we would have save so much time during the day that we can find ourselves, like I said, holding space for those other things.
Well, and what would happen is we would shift from being reactive to proactive. Instead of being defense mechanism city and reacting all over the place and at the victim of circumstances and at the victim of what somebody says to you and at the victim of somebody disrespecting me or whatever the problem is out here affecting me, you go from, if you're centered and whole and staying solid with yourself, what happens is they're going to do what they do, but I'm who I am.
Right.
And when I can show up who I am and operate from there, then I can say, what does all this information here want to create out here? That's a different life altogether.
That is beautiful.
That's a different life.
With that said, what we'll do is we're going to take a break here, and then when we come back, we're going to dive more in with the story of Elizebeth Edwards. So far, what a beautiful thing. I'm so glad I had you on the show. See you guys in a bit.
Thank you. Yeah.
Tune into the best destination to you. The good music is live. We keep it true. Twitch.tv/Daylight Radio and digital gas. Turn it up to the love. It's a play blast.
I'm Daryl Allums. I'm Executive Director of Anime Village Stop Our Kids Movement. I'm also the founder of the Oakland Frontline Healers. Oakland Frontline Healers are an Oakland, California service in African American community that's impacted by the COVID-19 crisis right now. We are on the front line every day, passing out masks, hand sanitizer, giving groceries, taking our loved ones, getting tested, out here serving our community while the pandemic is going on. Oakland Frontline Healers also supporting our loved ones have dealt with community gun violence, police violence, domestic violence, and any violence that's tapped onto that. We're here to support our community how we possibly can.
Are you ready to honor the legacy of my brother and hip-hop legend Shock G and make a difference in the community? Show your support for the East Oakland Collective, EOC, by purchasing the new Shock G Humpty t-shirt designed by Shamari Smith. It's available at beatsforhope.com. My brother Shock G was a multi-platinum hip-hop pioneer and producer who was deeply committed to helping the community, culture, and music of his time. His vision for helping humanity was honorable and has inspired people to come together and see to those that need important attention and love. By purchasing the new Shock G Humpty t-shirt, you are supporting the EOC, which helps provide essential services in East Oakland. Together, we can make a difference as we honor Shock G's legacy and support our friends at the EOC. Get your Shock G Humpty t-shirt today.
All right. Welcome back to Beneath the Surface. This is Perspective. We've been so far talking with Elizebeth Edwards, and she's been having such a beautiful, deep conversation. So much for me to take home with me and carry with me and stuff. She's so full of so much wisdom. And if you didn't know who Elizebeth Edwards is, as far as being an artist, her album House of Mirrors, 2015. Go check it out. Beautiful artist. Right here. And I'm going to go ahead and let her continue with her journey.
My wisdomness?
With your wisdomness. I'm just so tongue-tied. And I'm going to be honest, I was talking about it on the break, right? I'm just tongue-tied. I want you to take over the show tonight because you're just so full of so much. It's full of it. No, you're full of so much. You're God's gift to this world and to this interview right now. And so go ahead, please continue.
Well, thank you for that. I'll tell you something. I truly do believe everybody we're born with gifts inside of them. And it's our job to bring those gifts to the party of life. And that's what that's kind of how I got out of my own ego. I had like all kinds of reasons to hold myself back as a songwriter, and I was early in recovery, and I was insecure, and I was, I just was so overly self-obsessed, and I was so in my own way, I couldn't do anything. And, over time, I really was working on myself the whole time. It was painful, too, because it's like I had all these songs that wanted to be written, and I had a lot of fear, started singing in the coffee houses, and I had just such a head trip going on. And it was the best I could do is just to get out of my own way. So I started making records, and back in, way back machine, 1990. Okay, when you're in the 1990-something, 1994, I think, was my first professional recording. And then I've got like 5 records out. And the latest, House of Mirrors. But I actually released a single this year that's super near and dear to my heart. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But back to people and burning desires and knowing that if you're that person that is aware enough that you've got something amazing that wants to come forward in life, but you got all this life being lifey that's keeping you from being your best self, it's worth it to push through and work on yourself, and because it's all about getting to that place where you can put your best out into the world, because there's nothing that's when it really feels, for me, my recovery started feeling really like it didn't matter I stopped worrying about myself so much, and I started saying, this is what I need to give from myself. This is what needs to come from me. It's not about fixing me. It's about giving of me.
Right. And
when you can get to that place, you start to let go of what people think about you and what the feedback is. You're just doing you, and whoever shows up is showing up, because it's like you become so whole and complete yourself. You don't need to get at that validation. It's nice, but it's not necessary for me to be okay. And that shifted everything. That, and then just really falling in love with the craft of songwriting. And my music is basically kind of a country Americana. And I realize country Americana style with a kind of a basic recovery, emotional sobriety message.
Right.
That's probably not going to hit everybody, but I think most people, I have a lot of people who are never been in recovery, love my music. I look at it like this. It's human beings doing the human thing. You know, it's not easy to be a human being. It's just not. It's a challenge. But it's, most people want to hang on to it as long as they can, right? There's some right. So there's something that needs to happen here. And I believe that every human being has something beautiful inside of them that wants to be self-expressed. That's my personal belief. And the most important work we're ever going to do is getting out of our own way and healing enough to allow that to happen.
Right, I totally agree. And like I was telling you, this is raw and stuff, and that's my goal, and that's why it's so natural for me to help others, right, and to be in this thing, and because the way I see it, like we're all in this thing together, you know. And it's like our ticket's gonna expire one day, right? And the best that I can do is see what I can offer and give and add to my surrounding existence, right? To help us along the way in our journey. Because I want what I want for myself, I want for others, right? Is that internal peace and everything like that. So what can I do to help others along with myself get there together, you know? And that's just what my purpose has been, and I'm following my heart, and I'm happy and blessed because of that. Because some people never find that, you know, find that purpose or find that being.
I think we bury it. I think people bury it. People often say to me, "Oh, you're just so lucky you know what it is." Everybody's got a different passion or a different. Like I was listening to a podcast today, and it was a scientist. It was a woman scientist, and she was so passionate about her subject. I would never make a freshman science class. It's just not in my DNA. But it was like her passion for her subject matter made it so interesting to me. And I think we all have different gifts to bring to the party of life. Not everybody's going to bring the song. Nobody, if I don't bring these songs, nobody could bring those songs. Those are the songs I have to bring or they don't come. So that's the way, from an art point of view, I think about music and writing is, if I don't write it, I'm the only one who can write what I need to write. I'm the only one who can bring that song the way that I can bring that song. Speaking of songs, I do want to talk about an experience that I had that I want people to know exists. I want them to know that this song exists. I was asked, I think it was 2014-ish, somewhere in there, that time frame. I was asked to sing at a rally for a huge group of people that had coalesced in Washington, D.C. at the Washington Monument for a federal response to the opioid crisis. And, you know, there's been a lot of drug crises, but this is the one that really got the government's attention finally. And I remember looking out over this crowd of people, I mean, thousands of people, and some of them had their children, young adult children, pictures plastered on their chest. And the mom would be next to the dad, and here's this same child, and it would have the birth and death date. And it would be like that person was 18, this person was 20, and they all did this. It was like moving, heartbreaking, disturbing. It was all of the above. And we were at that time trying to get the government to basically crack down on some of the overprescribing and some of the things that were happening. And we were successful at that. But it was so interesting to me during that time was the stories that different people were coming up on the stage, and they were talking about the stories of their loved ones who had passed away, and how society saw them as the kid that died with the needle in the arm in the alley versus the child that had been born, had little freckles on their face and cute and all this. And you're like going, the disconnect, it was like the society was stigmatizing, you know, what was becoming this massive fentanyl, heroin addiction type of thing going on, and making it like the parents were losing twice. It was like they were being traumatized on top of trauma because they're losing their loved one, and they're being stigmatized, you know, like it was, they must have had bad parenting. And yet this is going on in every city and small town in this country. And I was on the front end of that movement, and I didn't know that it was where it was going to go. It was still really fairly early in the awareness of it. And then pretty soon it became, you know, everyday headlines. But during that time, I was moved to write a song called You'll Always Be My Hero. And that song, I released it last year. There was a lot of reasons that it took a minute to get it recorded, and I won't go into the whole reasons because it doesn't serve any value. But the song, I want people to know that that song is on all the music platforms under my titles. It's called You'll Always Be My Hero. And what that song does is it really addressed, and I sang it. I came back the next year. They asked me to come back. And I ended up singing it at the Ellipse in front of the White House on National Overdose Awareness Day. And it was a very impactful thing to be able to do. But I was able to sing that song for the people who literally lost their children. And it was mainly adult children, but also family members, because it's not just young adults that die from opioid overdoses, it's all kinds of people. But what happened was that song kind of became like this anthem for a lot of families, because what I was able to tap into, because tapping into a song is kind of how it happens for me, that the stigma, we needed to raise the awareness that stigma doesn't serve solving this problem, just like it doesn't serve it on any level. Stigma is societal shame. It's saying you're the problem, we're fine. And it's, no, the system is broken, and it's all of us. And there's never been more clarity around that. So that song is powerful if you have lost somebody to the opioid crisis or any drug, any drug or addiction. I hope you'll go find that song and play it, because it really, I feel like it really is one of those heart-healing songs. Not just because I wrote it, I co-wrote it actually with my producer Enrico Beretta, but we ended up like, wow, this song is different than anything else I've ever written. So anyway, it's on all the platforms now, but it's not on this record, but it's worth listening to. And I think it. Out of all the songs I've written, to me, that's the one that has the most healing power, is because it really, I raised the level, I think, well, through me, I think the energy and the awareness was raised about what was really happening. So anyway, I just wanted to get that in there because I know so many people have really suffered from losing somebody to addiction, not just the opioid crisis. I mean, different communities, different drugs, different, all of us, I don't know anyone who doesn't know somebody. I really, truly don't. I think everybody in our country knows somebody who's lost their life to this. And it's usually not a quick thing. It's usually a drag them behind the car for 50 miles. And then, you know, which is a horrible way to die. So I want people to know that not only is there hope, there's other people, there is advocacy to be heard by the people who represent us, and there is healing to be had through all kinds of different ways. And for me, music is one of the things that I offer.
That's so beautiful. You're such a beautiful gift. You really are. I know we all have our gifts, but right now, I just want to let you know, I don't know how many lives, I couldn't even imagine the lives that you've touched just through the song. Because as someone that really, you know, music really takes on a huge part of my life. Just certain songs, you know what I mean, can just draw out that feeling. And like you said, music is a teacher. Music really is a teacher, and it is an art. And only you have that, what you have inside of you that you brought out to this world is beautiful. And when you talk about the opioid addiction, I remember I went to a middle school. And, you know, on some recovery type stuff, right? And I went to a middle school, and I was talking to him about addiction, right? And I asked in the very beginning, I always like to ask, like, please raise your hand if you are someone that you know is affected by addiction. And everybody in the classroom, in middle school, right? And you can only imagine elementary school probably the same, right? But they all raised their hands. So it is a pandemic, a global pandemic. I have a mother that overdosed on heroin in 2017. And it was just two people high on drugs and not, and just high on drugs. So one didn't notice the other. And it's just, and I don't put, I wasn't angry or anything that this person didn't see it, because being an addict myself, I understand the struggle, right, and the disconnect. So it's very powerful what you're doing, and it's a part of the reason why I'm here too, and doing what I do, because I want to not even just bring the awareness, but bring the love and everything like that, because we, you know what I mean, the more of us like this can make a difference. And I've seen it in my experience. I'm not like I'm somebody, you know what I mean, but it's like,
we're all somebody.
yeah, we're all somebodies, right? Like, just imagine all the lives you've touched, all the lives I've, you know what I mean? Just by being who we are and taking that purpose and capitalizing on it in a way where it's adding to the world, and it's not for our own benefit, because it's just so much power in the heart.
I think that we do benefit from the gifts that we bring, and that we should, right? There's no punishment.
Well, right.
But there's a difference between showing up with a giving attitude because you're already full. Your heart's already full. When your heart's already full, and that doesn't mean, that does not mean I have no problems.
Right.
It just means that when you are very consciously aware of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're doing, and you're in your own power, the power that has sourced you. You're tapping into your source, and you have the information. You're so whole and complete as a human being that you're not trying to get something. What you're recognizing is, I'm here to give something. And when you approach, I think especially in a time where there's so many people, somebody said to me, oh, I want to be famous, I want to be famous. I'm like, well, what do you want to be famous for? Because you could go do something horrible right now and be famous for probably at least 48 hours, right?
Right.
So to me, fame is just another, like, if you're chasing something outside of yourself, the answer will never satisfy you, because nothing can satisfy not being whole and complete with yourself. So in a way, addiction was my path to coming home to myself. It was a rough road, but it got me on the road to recovery. And that's how, when we get ourselves back to where we recognize I need to be okay. Now, there are some people out there that they're just like so solid with themselves. I like to just observe. I go, wow, I want to be you when I grow up.
Right.
Right? It doesn't really work like that. But there are people like that. But most people are not like that. There's so much of the world, and so many of the problems that I see in the world are because so many people are trying to fix themselves from the outside in. Right. And I'm saying, there's a different way. There's a different way to do it. And I don't think you have to be in a lot of pain. I don't think you have to allow yourself to go all the way down the drain to get in enough pain to change. I think you can just recognize it before it goes that far. Some people can, not all people.
Right.
I had to get in a lot of pain. But I also was able to, I also had a lot of grace. There was some miracles in there, but I think miracles show up when you do. I do believe that. Yes, I do.
I am a firm believer in that.
This is water. I'm having my water.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
Talking a lot over here.
No, I know. I'm just so it's just everything that you're saying it's so much that I'm taking in, I am a firm believer in, showing up, and then I can't even imagine, like, if I look back on my life, I can really see where, and God's always been there, but I think with time, like we were talking about earlier before the show started, I remember, so it's like there was things that were happening in my life, and I was like, well, why is this happening to me? You know, da 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 da. But as I start growing spiritually, right, and then recognizing, I see that everything has its place in my life. You know, in every experience there's some kind of education there for me to learn about myself, about who I am, and then fast forward to where we are today. It was preparing me for the life that I'm supposed to live. Right, and the whole time. So now, even when I was in my darkest moments, you know, and I realized that God's purpose is being written into my soul during those times, and that's big for me, you know, to be able to feel like that. But it's up to me, right? Like you're saying, it's up to me to recognize that, to be aware of that, and to grow into that. You know what I mean? To that person that I'm supposed to be. And
But you get to decide what that is. We get to decide that.
Right.
So we're gifted with that free will. We're gifted with that. We can recreate our identity. We're doing it all the time as we're growing older. Something that you said triggered my thinking over here. Let's see if I can.
I love it.
Yeah. Let's see if I can keep thinking. Oh, well, it'll come back. But the point being is that when we are... here it is. It's that Zen thing, okay? A lot of wisdom in like Zen and Buddhism. I love I'm an eclectic when it comes to religion. If you want to talk to me in the language of Bible, I can talk Bible. You want to talk to me in Zen Buddhism, I can talk in more of that. If you want to talk philosophy, I can go there. I learned the language of all the inner world, so don't allow words to block you from where you want to go. I say open them all up and pick the ones that feed your soul.
Right.
So use the words that feed your soul. So if we're triggering people talking about, you know, the God word or whatever, because that used to trigger me. But what I wanted to say was that, you know, on my clean day, that was a really bad day. But my worst day turned out to be my best day. Same day.
Right.
The day didn't change. The circumstances of the history of that day did not change. I changed. Right. And that's true with everything I thought of as a tragedy in my life. It's like the things that are so hard and difficult turn out to be some of the best songs I've written are about the really hard things that I got through, right? So it's not what happens, it's the meaning that we give to the events of our life that determines how we feel about ourselves.
Right.
It's not what happens, because shit happens to everybody.
Right.
And if we want to choose to continue to see it that way, then that is the way it will be for us. We can choose that. Nobody's going to stop you. You can just go, you know, sucks to be me, right? You can just have that attitude all day long. You won't have a lot of friends, or you'll have other friends who are like that, and you're all competing on who's got it worse. Okay, not my bag, right? But you can also decide, wow, that was really, really rough. That wasn't fair. It was hard. It was, you know, screwed up, whatever. But I got to decide who I was going to be in that. And I showed up this way, and I like who showed up. I like the person who showed up. I can do it different. I can change it. People can and do change. I've seen it for 38 years in recovery. I've seen it. People can and do change. And that's, I think, if I'm talking to the person who's maybe been at the receiving end of bad behavior from somebody who's got an active addiction, I would say they can change. Now, don't sign up to be in the firing squad of their bad behavior.
Right.
That's not wise. But that doesn't mean they can't change. They can. The switch is on the inside. It's not on the outside. They have to decide it. And sometimes what we choose kind of helps them decide.
Right.
Right? So
Right.
sometimes the loving thing to do is the hardest thing to do. Maybe like not support somebody in hurting themselves anymore. That's hard when you've been the one letting them take advantage of you so they can continue to hurt themselves.
Right.
You know, you mentioned codependency. I think that word gets thrown around a lot. One of the things that I learned, and I don't know what your definition of codependency is, but my definition of codependency is I'm operating my life in the 5 patterns that are limiting. There are 5 patterns of behavior: denial, avoidance, compliance, control, and low self-esteem. And those are the patterns of codependency. And if I'm operating my life in negative ways, not using those coping mechanisms, then I'm having a codependent relationship with whatever it is. It can be a codependent relationship with work. It can be because it's avoidance, I'm avoiding, or I'm in control all the time so I can feel safe, or whatever it is, how you do it. It's a pretty deep subject. But we tend to label a lot, and I think it's important to know that just being a human being, having relationships with people with addiction issues, is a very challenging thing. And we ourselves, the most important thing you can do is come home to yourself and work on you and be strong no matter what happens with them. Because what happens with them is their choice, not yours. And that's a very hard thing to do when you love somebody with these problems.
Right.
So, more reason to work on you, not less.
No, 100%. And that's pretty much what I've been doing, and that's something that I'm working on.
Especially when you're working in the field.
Right.
Yeah, especially when you're working with others. It's real easy to get compassion burnout if you're over-giving. So there's the balance there. So yeah, that's something I've had to work on.
And that, and I feel it because I am at that part. Because I will tell you this: I use my work phone, and this is just because I didn't get it work. But my work phone and my regular phone, they have the same number. And I know clients, people don't have boundaries sometimes. But I'm and I'm working on the boundary part, right? And I had to step back and be like, look, you're not saving the world in one day. You know what I mean? In this, you know what I mean? And then like I've learned, and I'm learning even more, right? When to say that no is a one-word answer. And you don't have to explain anything. I don't have to explain anything and stuff like that. So I've been learning how to do that because I love, you know what I mean? I'll be like, oh, you need help? Okay, that's right. Because I want to always be there for people, but I also know I have to take care of myself. And that's and I've been proud of myself lately because there were situations that came up where I'm like, I have this going on. I could have done this, but then I would have been suffering, and then I couldn't do what I need to do to take care of me and work on building a beautiful home within me. You know what I mean? And it's under construction.
Yeah. And the thing is there's the resources of time and energy and focus, right? So if I'm always other focused, I'm not spending enough energy and resources in maintaining and building that positive self-esteem. So there's a balance. But boundaries, people think boundaries are about, I'm going to set a boundary and I'm going to tell them how it is and all this kind of stuff. That's not what boundaries, we have internal boundaries and we have external boundaries. Boundaries are just, you don't set boundaries. You either have them or you don't. Because when you have boundaries, it's an energetic thing. It's like, have you ever met anybody you go, I would just never mess with that person? I just would never mess with them. I'd just be straight. I like other people you just kind of mess around with and like they're like fluid. And other people are just.
Yeah, there's different levels.
Because they have a very closed boundary because that's what is working for them. Boundaries are a way of, internal boundaries can work 2 ways. One is how much of me is going to come out and self-express, and boundaries of outside, how much of outside world is going to affect me inside world. If you're a person who says something bad out here happens and somehow it's my fault, that's a no boundary, internal boundary. There's like not enough boundary because everything going on in the world is not your fault, and you're letting it all in, all the pain, all that. So people who get labeled into codependency have a tendency of overgiving because they have an over sense of responsibility, because they're basically still dealing and cleaning up a lot of shame, believing that everything's their fault, which is a limiting decision, basically, that they made about themselves probably before they could talk.
Wow, That's really deep.
Pre-verbal, right? So yeah, that's why this work, once you start working on yourself, it's life-changing, but it is a road. It's a journey. It's not even a destination. It is a journey, and it's an interesting, lovely journey. But when you're getting these nuanced lessons in life, what will happen is you won't have to be a badass and set a boundary. You'll just have a boundary because you're so solidly with understanding who you are, where you start and end.
Right.
And yet you can also open that door and say, yeah, I feel good with you. I can trust myself to let you in. I can open my heart. I can discern if you're the right vibe for me because I trust myself because I know myself. That's a totally different way to live than I got to set a boundary and keep you over there because, you know what I mean? So when people start talking boundaries, if somebody's trying to manipulate me or try to get me to do something I don't want to do or whatever, no, thank you. Mm-hmm. End of conversation. Be nice about it. Done. But it's not what you said. It's not because you said no. It's because you said no.
Right, okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Oh, shit. All right, Sensei. Hey, look. I'm so glad that we were able to have you on the show and stuff like that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I'm just extremely excited for just what I'm taking home, and I'm hoping everybody else is taking home with them tonight that has tuned into this. There was so much information, that you have brought into this. You gave me a lot to think about, I'm always growing and developing, and that's what this thing is about, is growing and developing, right? As a person.
I love the name of your show. I mean, it's so cool. I think we spend a lot of time looking at stuff out, and there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's like looking at beautiful things. I want that. I want this. I mean, that's normal. That's natural. I just think we live in a society where we're overly focused that way, and we're a lot of us, including myself. That's what put me in this place. You teach what you need to learn, right?
Right, and that's exactly what this is about. And as I'm journeying through my own heart, and the inside job and stuff. There's so much more to come.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, to be continued, right? In development, right?
Yeah.
Under construction. I ain't going nowhere.
Work in progress. Work in progress.
We're here. So what I'm gonna do now, I don't even know what time it is, man. I was so lost in this time. We gonna wrap this thing up. I mean, unless you have something more that you would like to talk. Is there anything you want the audience to know about before we get off and in the show? I'm also gonna let you guys know in just a second where you can send an email if you want to be part of the show, or if you have any questions or anything about any of the guests or anything at all you want to talk about. Let me know, okay? But for right now, is there anything you want to leave?
Yeah, I am doing a free emotional sobriety masterclass on January 22nd, 25, for anyone listening to this later, and it is on what it really takes to make positive changes in the outside world, because we all want positive changes, right? Nobody's walking around going, I've got it perfect, just keep it like this. Most people want to make some kind of a change. So I'm going to be talking about what it takes to make positive changes, what it really takes. It's not, like if I just visualize it and sit here on my little cushion, that's part of the process. It's not the whole process. But anyway, this is my my class. So when you see, let's see,
let me see. It was right.
There we go.
A little lag right there.
Okay, there we go.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the QR code right here.
There we go.
And it's gonna stay up here.
There you go.
Is it this way? This is kind of fun, DJ.
There we go.
All right, there we go. So anyway, if you could just pause it and then go ahead and get that QR code.
I'll leave that with you. So if you want to put that on the website.
Yeah. So that way you guys can be in tune with that. And
thank you so much. I loved our conversation.
I love the conversation too. Like I said, you have me right here, and that's what this is about. Giving me a hug, and you know what? All right, and then so for any of those that are out there that are listening, like I said, so there's a new email to go ahead. It's called Molding Perspektive. So it's molding, the word molding, and then perspective, PERSPECTIVE @gmail.com.
There you go.
So, and if you have any questions too, you know, the Bay Life Radio line. And other than that, you know,
And you can find everything I'm doing is through givingvoicetorecovery.com or singer-songwriter Elizabeth Edwards. You can find me. I'm out there.
Givingvoicetorecovery.com. Once again, that's givingvoicetorecovery.com for Elizabeth Edwards. Stay tuned for next week. I'll have another interview on here. And, you know, I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for being on the show. DJ Igor, take us
you.
out. Thank you so much for having this, allowing us to have this thing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hey, it's Bay Life All Day TV Channel 0, man. I'm with us, Denny from 11.5, if you didn't know, huh? Straight out the lion's mouth. Yeah, ask your bitch if you didn't know. You know what I'm saying? It's a worldwide movement right now.
What that no Bay Life did thing, right?
I'm out with the Bay Life, man. Just look like this. What it do?
We out here in San Francisco, man. You know what I'm saying? It's all about the Bay Life, man. We be everywhere, man. Oakland, nigga. Bay Life, nigga.
You are part of this. You watching Channel 0, Bay Life TV.
What it do? It's your boy Igor Beats from Bay Life Entertainment. You watching Channel 0. We down here in Caribbean City, live at Low Al's Video Studio. This is the place to be every Wednesday.
What it do? It's Igor Beats. Live on Bay Life TV. You watching Channel 0. I'm live here with Kali IB.
And I'm Igor Beats. You know what I'm saying? We're going to show you how we do this for freedom. You know what I'm saying?
It's the hardest underground promotion team right here. Bay Life Entertainment.